What is up, guys, and welcome back. This past week, my friends and I had our second play session in this here game of Global War 1936. It went really well, but we only got through 2 1/6 rounds, and that's because the last German turn took forever. As you can see over here, the Germans have expanded their territory by a lot. And they had a very good round. Mind the pillars of chips. These are just mistakes or things that we missed that I have to update when we next start playing. In fairness to my fellow players, I just marked them and then we'll fix them together. So the last German turn took forever. This was in July of 39, so we're going to pick up in July of 39 on the Russian turn the next time we play. A lot of big things happened in the 2 turns that we played, so there's going to be a lot to go over here in this recap. So I'm excited to point that out to you guys. We're going to be playing again this coming Saturday, March the 20th. I'm not sure about a specific time yet, but we will be streaming that again. So I will get that time out to you guys as soon as I can. We had a lot of fun on the last stream. We've got some good stuff. I know the video is a little bit choppy, so I'm going to be doing some test streams throughout the week here to try to get that video quality up a little bit so it's not quite as choppy in certain spots. Okay, so that being said, let's go. Okay, starting off here with the Germans, first thing we notice is that the German Empire has expanded appreciably. The first rounds of attacks for the Germans went better than they could have ever hoped, I think. So I'll go through each of their attacks here and show you kind of how it went. Okay, starting off here with Poland. The German army in July of 1939 attacked West Poland and Donoslawski. And then from Donoslawski blitzed into Warsaw with 3 mech infantry and 3 medium armor, which is probably a mistake because I ended up using my double impulse attack on this turn because I saw an opportunity in France. The problem was I wasn't planning to do that, so I ended up blitzing into Warsaw and lost 3 mech infantry, which could have been avoided if I would have just waited and used my second impulse to move these 3 infantry and 2 light armors from West Poland into Warsaw with the tanks. So that was a mistake. We lost 3 mech infantry doing that. But Poland was captured with only not too many casualties. Next up we had Yugoslavia, which actually went very, very well. I went in there with 3 mountain infantry, 3 artillery, a fighter, and a tactical bomber against the normal Yugoslavian defense, and the Yugoslavians had some tough rolls, and I only lost 1 mountain infantry, which was an excellent thing for me. I usually lose a lot more than that when I go into Yugoslavia with that force. So that was good. I was real lucky, and we got the 3 IPP territory that is Yugoslavia very, very early, and that is awesome for us. Now, where things start getting a little bit crazy, and this is something that I've never done before. It was really just kind of off the cuff. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I saw an opportunity and thought that I'd try it out. What I did was, on my first impulse, I attacked Belgium and Switzerland. And that's it, no blitzes. I knocked out Switzerland. I think I took 2 casualties on that one against my infantry. And I went into Belgium and actually didn't lose anything, which was nice. The way that the French had set up their defense, they had most of their forces concentrated in Paris. So I believe that there was 1 infantry in Picardy, nothing in Normandy, 4 infantry in Alsace-Lorraine, 1 infantry in Vichy, France here, and then nothing out here in Aquitaine. So having seen that and having seen the buildup of forces inside of France, I decided after things went well in Belgium and Switzerland to go ahead and use my second impulse. And what I did was I blitzed here from Picardy into Normandy with 3 tanks because that's what I'd taken into Belgium. And then here in Alsace-Lorraine, we actually brought in all of our planes, all of our tanks, and I think 2 or 3 infantry into there against his 4 infantry. And I actually rolled horribly on the first round. I only got 1 hit on the first round. About crapped my pants because I thought I was going to get, dice and I wasn't going to finish him off in 2 rounds. But luckily, we finished him off in the second round and were able to blitz with our leftover mech infantry, 4 light armor, and the rest of our planes into southern France and take that out relatively easily. But the most scary battle here was over here in Aquitaine. I brought in my air transport, my airborne, and my medium bomber, and those were the only planes that I could get to reach because of the way that I had set them up beforehand. So what ended up happening was, luckily, my medium bomber hit on the first round and took out the fighter that he'd scrambled into Aquitaine. But unfortunately, he did hit me back with his fighter, and so I was forced to take my medium bomber as a casualty in order to take that territory, which is a heavy cost, but to be able to take France out in July of 1939, I think was a good deal. So we took some casualties, but we didn't lose a medium armor, which I think I usually lose, 1 or 2 medium armors going into France. So we've actually got 7 medium armors still here in France, as well as 4 leftover infantry, our airborne, and our entire Air Force minus that medium bomber. So things went pretty well for Germany in France. They also declared war on Great Britain, did some convoy raiding. We've only got 2 subs out right now. Only took $5 off, but every little bit counts. And after Paris fell, of course, we had our Vichy rolls, which I'm just going to start off here by saying the Vichy made off like bandits in the Navy department. I mean, look at this. We've got a battleship, 3 destroyers, and 3 subs from the rolling, which is crazy. I've never had this big of a Vichy Navy ever. And then the French, on the other hand, retained 1 sub and his Pacific transport, and that's all he got. Luckily, this infantry was on the transport, so he was able to keep that infantry as well when it got rolled for. So he kept his infantry, the transport, and 1 sub. That's all. The Vichy got a battleship, 3 destroyers, and 3 subs. And the Germans got a battleship and a heavy cruiser out of the deal. So the Axis powers basically got the entire French Navy, which is crazy. But in terms of land possessions, you can see here the income ended up being a perfect 3-3 split, which I guess the Japanese also got $2, so the Axis did come out a little bit on top in that department as well. You can see here the Free French got Cameroon, which is one of the big ones. The Free French got Algeria and Tunisia. Vichy got Morocco here, but of course the French left a French Foreign Legion up here in Algeria, so they'll be able to take that off in short order. The Vichy got Syria and its associated militia, and the Vichy got Madagascar down here. So there's your 3 IPP versus 3 IPP. And of course, the Japanese got the Pacific. And that is how things shook out on the German turn. Next up are the Russians, who have just continued to build up on this border. The Germans and the Russians did sign the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, so they will be able to attack these 2 Polish territories without a declaration of war on Great Britain. It looks like they're gearing up for an invasion into Karhala, as well as Iran. Same as our last video. They haven't been doing much, haven't been getting much money, just building an infantry here and there. Again, over here in the east, everything is the same as you saw last time. Nothing has changed. Over here in Spain, things are looking grim for the Republicans. There was a point in the Spanish Civil War where myself, as the nationalist player, messed up big time and tried to attack this territory with 3 cavalry and a fighter. And for whatever reason, I'd forgotten that he could scramble all 3 of his fighters out of Catalonia into this place. So what ended up happening was he had 3 fighters and an infantry, and I had 3 cavalry and a fighter, which obviously those are terrible odds for me. And somehow, yeah, I hit 3 rolls on my cavalry in 2 rounds, and my fighter hit and died in the first round, and wiped out his fighters with 3 cavalry, which was crazy. It was dumb. It shouldn't have happened. It was just one of those fluky things, and the footage is actually pretty funny on the stream. I'm going to try to splice that together into the highlight reel. So we've got 4 mountain infantry, 2 artillery, and an infantry here for the nationalists, and only 2 lone militia here for the Republicans. We'll see if they lend-lease here on their next turn. Up next, we've got the Japanese, and the Japanese are doing pretty well in China. They made a mistake based on the map. They didn't see that Szechuan was bordered to Hunan here, so the KMT were able to walk in there and take it for free this past turn. But it looks like the KMT are holed up back here in Qinghai. They've got 9 infantry there, a cavalry and a mountain infantry. And here in Shantung, the Japanese have 15 infantry, as well as more reinforcements there in the home islands. So a distinct numbers advantage for the Japanese here, as well as all their planes. And unfortunately for the Comintern player, the communists were wiped out. The KMT felt betrayed by the communists because they didn't apparently hold up some end of a bargain that they were supposed to do. So actually, the KMT were the ones who wiped out the communists here in China, or here in Shenxi, and not the Japanese. Other than that, not much going on in the Japanese Empire. They're still bogged down in China for now. We'll see what happens. Up next, we've got the British here. Up here in the British Isles, not much going on. They've got a little bit of a buildup of infantry here. They've dropped 3 infantry since the last time we saw you. And then over here in this English Channel Navy, they've added 1 heavy cruiser to the mix, and that is it. Other than that, not much going on. They are in the war now, though, so we'll see what they do in the coming turns. Gibraltar is the same as last time as well, 2 mountain infantry, 2 artillery, and a militia, though this fleet off the coast of Gibraltar has moved into the Mediterranean, and we've now got a large naval buildup from the British here in the Mediterranean. Looks like we've got a light carrier with attack bomber, a battleship, a battle cruiser, 3 heavy cruisers, a coastal defense ship, a light cruiser, 4 destroyers, a torpedo boat destroyer, a sub, and 2 transports. That is quite the navy. We're also starting to get a buildup of infantry over here in eastern Egypt. Looks like we've got 4 infantry there now. They have vacated Transjordan. And down here in South Africa, we are back to a lone militia. Moving on to the FAC. Their navy has not changed. They've just been building some infantry. We've now got 5 infantry in Calcutta, 2 Gurkhas on the board, and then 3 more infantry out here protecting Bengal and Burma. Hong Kong is still vacated. Singapore still has 1 militia, and Sarawak still has 1 militia. Down here with the Anzac, the Anzac is on the move, actually. You can see here in C-Zone 135, this is a tiny C-Zone, which I'd never noticed before, so I actually had to use the Anzac Fleet marker, which is absolutely legendary. And here in this fleet, we've got a light cruiser, 3 destroyers, a transport with an infantry, and a motorized infantry. So they built another destroyer since the last time we saw them. The Anzac are building up, and they've got a small garrison in Sydney and a couple of militia in New South Wales. Now, skipping the French, because we already had a chat about them during the German section, so moving right on to the Italians. The board has not changed for the Italians since the last time you saw it. They moved their battleship from Season 50 to join the fleet in 51. That's it. The extent of Italian action has happened over here on the build chart, where they've got a new battleship and a new carrier here at stage 2, ready to go. I realize we forgot to roll for these 2 French ships, so we're gonna have to do that the next time we play. So we see the Japanese have a carrier here. And these two ships, I believe, started on here at the beginning of the game, just like this Italian heavy cruiser and the American heavy cruiser, which haven't moved since the beginning of the game. And then now we've got an Italian carrier, an Italian battleship, just about to be finished. Lastly, we've got the Americans, who are continuing to build up in the Atlantic. Since the last time we saw each other, they added a fighter to this carrier fleet here. And I believe that's all we have seen from them. Now that the Germans have invaded the rest of Europe, the Americans are at 16 IPPs per turn and can now begin to lend-lease. So we'll see what they do with that power. And just real quickly, I'll show you the West here. Nothing at all has changed. It is still the same as the last time we saw it. Showing you the tech chart here. Things are starting to get juicy. The Germans had a good roll on their last turn and now have 3 techs one stage away. Of course, no other major power has had their turn since the Germans went in July of 39, so nobody else has had a chance to get into stage 3. So we'll see how that goes in the coming turns. And that's all I got for you guys. It was a really, really long last German turn there in July of 39, so we cut it off early. We're going to pick up with the Soviets in July of 39, when they're going to be making their first round of attacks. It's looking like they're going to go into Finland, Poland, and Iran. And I will try to get the highlight video out as soon as possible because we've got some good stuff recorded for you guys. All right, I'll see you soon.